Alright, so how y'all doing? Back out here again today working on this old Moline. In today's video, I'm going to try to get the radiator tanks fixed up, get the bolts, get them old broke off bolts out, and try to maybe get the new core put in, and I'm going to try to work on the front wheels and rims and a few other things. Might try to tackle the back rims. I don't really know just yet. And I might try to get the new carburetor on and get it running better. And yeah, that's about it. Slowly picking away at it. We've slowed down now, so we've kind of hit that slow point where there's a lot to do, but I kind of have not a lot of time to do it, if that makes any sense. So it's just little by little I'm going to be working on it. So I'm going to get started working on these tanks, get them ready to go. Then I can hopefully get these front rims, wheels and tires put on, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start working on it. I'm getting started on this radiator. I got the top tank and I got the bottom tank. I got one broke off stud here. I'm not sure about that hole. I'm afraid they might have broke one off, tried to drill it out, messed it up. I don't know yet. And then I got one nut cross-threaded on this stud so I can fill it up with weld. And then on the bottom tank, got one broke off bolt. Well, actually I had to cut that one. And I got one broke off on here. So I just gotta spot weld some nuts there and there. And then I got one old one that they broke off years ago here. And one on the back right there. And one over here on this side right there. And then I've got the two problem areas, which are these two holes. So I'm going to have to do a lot of work to those. Not looking forward to it. But I got to weld those, see if I can get those out. Hopefully I can. And then do the rest of it. So I'll be back. Now these are going to be the problems. These right here. So they drilled into this one, I think. And then they really screwed this one up. Where my nail is, that's the bolt. There's where they tried to put a bolt. So the bolt's actually right in there in that corner. So I'm going to have to try to fill this up with weld enough to get a nut on it. And hopefully my welds will hold and it'll pull at least some of it out. This one, I'm going to try to fill it up with weld. Do the same thing, but like I said, I'm not hopeful on being able to get these out. I'm probably going to end up having to drill them. These are hardened bolts because this one, I tried to drag a file across it and it's just like, it's not even there. So these are strong bolts, very hard. They're going to be tough to drill. That's probably why they didn't drill them. There's different methods of getting bolts out. One of them is the way I'm doing these, where you put a nut on it, weld it. The heat of the weld expands and gets it out that way. And of course you can turn it with a wrench. Another way to do it is take a torch, cutting torch, heat these up white hot, blow them out with air, or blow them out with the oxygen, of course, like cutting, because cast iron has a higher melting point than steel, so you can get them out that way. And then this is the other way to do it, where you drill a hole straight as possible, and that usually happens, so that's not the best way to do it. And then you can use an easy out, but those things don't work, in my opinion. They get you out of certain situations, but in stuff like this, you're just gonna break the easy out off, and then there you go, you've got an easy out and a bolt to get out. So best thing to do is one of the two first ones, cutting torch or welder. But I don't have a cutting torch, so if I can't get these out with a welder, I'm gonna have to try to drill into them, and it's not gonna be fun, it's not gonna be easy. But this one won't be too big a deal because it is under here. So if I drill all the way through, I could put a bolt and then JB it in place, and that would be fine. This one's into the side right here, so this will be the problem one. But at the same time, if I can at least get something, a 1/4 20, anything, just something to hold this, because all these holes do is they hold the hood strap down. So if I at least get one good one and then a halfway decent something, I ought to be able to get away with it. But the rest of these, I think they'll come out. That one broke off with me. That was broke off already. The one in the front right here was broke off already. Of course, I broke these two off. I had to cut that one because the head of the bolt was so eat up that I couldn't get nothing on it. Vice grips were just chewing it, not actually getting anywhere. This one snapped. So that one will probably come out easy. This one may be a challenge. These two, I'm not giving them even a 50% chance to come out. This one, I don't know yet. That one might come out. And of course the one on the front, I don't know. The ones on that one, I think they'll come out pretty easy. It's only two. So I'm going to start welding these things, and I'll be back. Alright, so here's what I got. Got my nut welded on there. Got another one kind of welded on there. I don't think that one's going to do too good. I'll probably have to go back. And then this one I've got all the nuts welded, and I've got two welded onto there. I'll see what they do. Hopefully they break loose. I don't have a lot of hope on those though. So the trick to this is, once you get this done, you take a hammer and you hit them. You hit them and you wiggle them. Hit them, wiggle them. You keep doing that, penetrating oil, just like you would with a regular bolt, and it breaks that rust loose and they come out. So that's the plan anyway. More than likely the head will just twist off again, but I'm hopeful that it'll come out. So I'm going to start doing that, and I'll be back with results. So we had two failures. That one just fell off, and that one broke again. So two failures, two big failures. So we're off to a terrific start. Alright, so I started working on this piece, and my mind is blown at the moment because the one that I thought would not come out, that one, there it is. It come out. But I know why, because if you look, you can see my weld at the bottom of that nut. I don't know if you guys can see. Alright, so you see that dent? That's my weld. It molded the weld into the threads, what's left of them, and it screwed that out of there. So I am actually impressed. That one did not do anything, but that one come out. So it's a win. One win. So now that one's being a little stubborn. You know what? I haven't tried any of these yet, or this one. So I'm going to start fiddling with them. I'll be back. Alright, well, after a lot of work, a lot of re-welding, redoing, I got them all out but one. And I drilled a hole in the center of it. I actually got it pretty good. It'll focus. There we go. See, I got it in the center pretty good. And there's some threads exposed. But here's my successes. And there's my failures. So it took a lot of welding and re-welding, and I was even able to get the other one out of there. So let's see if I can find him. Here he is. See, I drilled a hole through it too. But yeah, a lot of work. And there's the one out of the holds the radiator on, one of them. Another trick I've learned to get a little bit more heat into your studs, you can take a washer and lay that washer flat on there, and then just weld till the washer fills up. Then you get your nut set on top of there, fill him in. Get you better contact. If you just put a nut on here and weld in there, it's going to tend to want to weld to the nut before it welds to the stud. But with a flat washer, you don't have that. So now on this one, I'm just going to have to drill him out, which I don't like doing, but I got that hole pretty much in the center, so I shouldn't have any issues drilling him out. And I've got some threads to kind of get, go off of to start the tap. So hopefully everything will work out. So I'll be back when I get that done. Alright, so here's what I'm working on right now. Trying to remake this piece. So here's what I've got so far. That's the pipe that I had. I cut it at an angle. I don't even know the angles I cut it at. I just guessed. But I cut this, split it, and took a little bit of material out and kind of shrunk it in. And I'm basically going to weld this in, flip it over, weld it on the inside, and I'm going to feather it down, so it'll kind of have the effect of this one where it kind of tapers inward. It's not going to be perfect, but at least it'll be close. Which is pretty, pretty close. Then I'm going to drill a hole inside of it and put that in there, weld it in there. And then in the place of that plug, I've got one of these petcocks. So that'll be handy. Be a lot better than what it did have. So yeah, I'm going to keep working on this thing. I'm going to take this and sandblast it. Try to get that galvanize off of there. Stuff ain't good for you. But try to get that off of there. I don't know, I might throw that in there. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But for sure we're gonna chuck this in there, so I'll be back when I get that done. And approximately an hour's worth of work later, that's what we got. Original mouthpiece. Pretty close. I mean, it's not the exact same, but it's close. It'll look the part when it's bolted on there. Like, I still gotta kind of smooth it up a little bit, but I got my bung welded in there, so I can put my deal in it, drain antifreeze out easier, or water, or whatever. So this part of the project's done. I didn't film any of it, but it's kind of hard to, if you can imagine. That's the piece I had cut. Let's see, I put a bead on the inside of it. Not a very good bead, but a bead. So, yeah, that'll work pretty good. So, I've been doing a little thinking here, and I think I'm going to JB weld this pipe in place. And there's a few reasons why I'm going to do that. One of them is when I was cutting the cast the old busted cast iron one out, I kind of sawed into the threads a little bit, and I'm afraid, you know, water's gonna sweep around this. So, and I can't get this to thread in there as far as the original. So, and if you see that hole right there, it's actually in the threads, and my homemade pipe, it only comes to right about there. So these threads are going to be open. Now, of course, I could put silicone on the bolt when I put the radiator back together, but I think I'm going to put the pipe in there and mix up a little bit of JB, put on this, and kind of get it to stick up inside of there a little bit. I'm going to put a bolt in there, of course, so I don't go too crazy, but I'm going to try to kind of seal that just a little bit. Now, I'm still probably going to put silicone on the bolt, but just as a precaution, I'm going to do that. And I don't know what I'm going to put inside of here, if I'm just going to put primer, or I might even put Pour 15, and I've got to try to chip this, I don't know if that's gasket or just straight up rust. I can't really tell. It don't want to move, so I'm assuming it's rust. But it's like a scale, so I'm going to try to get that off, and then prime this and prime the top tank too. I'm still debating on either priming it and painting it, or just priming it, putting the radiator on it, putting it all together, put it back on the tractor, and just have this as the primary radiator, and then that way when I pressure wash it and stuff like that, I won't be hurting paint with, you know, degreasers and stuff like that. So I might just prime this, because primer I've found don't really get affected by degreaser. So that's probably what I'll do, is just prime it. But for sure, I'm going to go ahead and screw this in there with JB weld and take it over there, put it back on the tractor, so that way I get that clocked in the right spot. So I'm going to get started doing that. I'll be back. Alright, so here's what we got. I got the pipe put on. I got some JB weld on it, and it lines up pretty good. So it lines up pretty good. So, you know, I think that's pretty good. And I got some JB weld down in that hole from the underside, so hopefully it'll set up. I'm still probably going to put something on that bolt, because I don't fully trust that it's sealed up good, but that's about where it needs to be. Drain off will be right there, so I call that a success. So I'm going to take this thing back off, take it back home, start working on some of this flaky paint, rust, try to get these chunks knocked down, get this piece in primer, get the other one in primer, get the new core bolted on. But while I'm here, I'm going to have to fix that crank thing right there. They use their hand crank so much on this tractor, they've actually rounded this out. So when you go to crank it, it just pushes it out. It's got more pitch than it needs. So I might try to get in there with either a Dremel tool or something and try to put an edge back on it. Alright, so I've been doing a little bit more work. I got the bottom tank ready for primer, and I got the top tank ready for primer. So now I'm going to get started on these rims, front rims. Now I got these off at eBay. These are a John Deere implement rim. That's why they got the double drilled lug holes, which doesn't bother me. I really don't care. They're 15-inch though, so they'll work real good on the front of that tractor. They were never painted, so they still got the original black whatever that stuff is, E-coating or primer, I guess, I don't know. But they were, I'm assuming they had tires mounted on them. They were probably put on like a bush hog or maybe a plow, I don't really know, but they set out and rusted. But, well, they were cheap considering how much brand new ones cost. And they're just, you know, they're a little rough, but they'll do. Prime them, paint them, put them on, they'll be good to go. And of course I got my new tires over there with tubes. So I'm going to get these painted, primed and painted. And I've decided to paint them Massey Ferguson red. So I still had some of this paint left when I did the Jeep. That's what I used on the Jeep wheels. So it'll look pretty good on here, I think. I'm gonna do the rims, front rims, and the back cast iron centers with this, and maybe a few detailed parts on like maybe the hitch or something. I don't know. I ain't really decided. So I went away and got me a new radiator. It's pretty good. I think it's got more flues than the original one, but it's the same size, so it'll work. I'm about to go ahead and paint it black, seal it up so it ain't exposed. So hopefully it'll last longer than the other one did, which I guess considering 1950 to now, that's pretty good out of a radiator. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing painted. I'll be back. Well, there it is, all blacked out. Main reason I wanted to paint it was to get down in there in this lower section, or that could be the lower section, I don't know. But that's where the last one rotted out. It was right in there. Dirt collected on it. It just eat the fluids out of the bottom. So hopefully that paint will kind of slow that process down. So yeah. I forgot to show this, but here's my new air cleaner. The old one that I had, the oil bath part was rotted out where rain had been going down the hole for so long. And then also someone had cut it off right about there, so I didn't have anything to put my cap on. So this one's in really good shape. I'm gonna plug the holes up and probably chuck it in the sandblast cabinet and blast all this old flaky paint off, and then get it in primer as well. So figured I'd show you guys that real quick before I primed it. Alright, so it's day now, so I went on ahead and sandblasted this. Got it ready to prime. Got my rims cleaned up, sanded, they're ready to prime. And then I got the top and bottom radiator ready to prime. So I'm going to mix up some primer and start priming. Alright, so I got one coat on the rims on the back side. Got one coat on the tanks underside, and I got one coat on the air cleaner. So the air cleaner will probably be good. I might put one more coat and then it'll be good to go. These tanks, I'm gonna flip those over, give them a little bit more on the top side, and then the rims, I'm gonna try to put another coat on the backs, flip them over and do the fronts. So hopefully I'll have that done. I'll be back. Alright, so I got it all primed, got both tanks moved back in the building for the heat, and there's my air cleaner. It's a little thin, I didn't get a lot of primer on it, but it was wanting to run on me, so kind of had some issues there, but it's good enough for now, so it'll be okay as long as I keep it in here. And the rims are still sitting out there, but I've been thinking about just painting the inside of them black where the tire is, just to seal it. And I'm gonna put the tires on with primered rims, so that way I can still crank it, use it, move it around, take it, pressure wash it off, get all the grease off of those tires, and then that way I won't be hurting new paint. It'll just be primer that I can go back and either touch up or just clean and paint over the top of it. So that's what I think I'm going to do, but I want to paint the inside of those rims just to kill any kind of rust or corrosion that could occur from lack of a finish. So I'm just going to do that really quick, and maybe next couple days I'm going to try to get those new tires over there mounted, and so that should be pretty good when I get that done. On these, I'm just letting a few drips cure, but I'm wanting to glue my gaskets on with some silicone, because this cast iron surface kind of had some flakes. You can kind of see it right in there, but kind of had some pits and some low spots, so I'm going to try to use silicone to kind of glaze over the top of those just to make sure it's going to be 100% sealed. I don't want any antifreeze coming around these bolt heads, top or bottom. And I've also got to trim my gaskets because they're actually a lot wider. They come out to like right there, and that new radiator core actually hits them, so I'm going to have to kind of trim that back, or I'm going to have some flues not getting the proper water flow, and that ain't no good. So I'm going to go ahead and get started doing that, and I'll be back. Alright, so I got my cork gaskets trimmed and glued on, both top and bottom. So I'm going to let these cure up, and I'll be ready to put that one back on the tractor and hook it up and put the radiator on. And I've still got to clean these pieces, so they're kind of tied up for now, but then I've still got to clean up the neck and the cap. It's laying over there somewhere, but so I'm gonna get that done, get that started, and I'll be back. Alright, so I got my new tires and rims put on, so it kind of changed the stance of the tractor in the front, but I kind of figured it would. I mean, it had that big old 16 on there with a, I think this is like a 7.50 tire, so it's kind of a big tire for this tractor. I don't know what size tire this thing come out with. I don't know if it had 15s or 16s up front, but I was going to run the 16 rims, but I was kind of worried it was going to rub right in there, because them were basically touching. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to get a tire that was going to work or not on a 16-inch rim. So I don't really know if it come out with 15s or 16s or what. I know some of them did, but I don't know if this one in particular did. So I'm going to keep working on this thing, and I'll be back. Alright, so I got my radiator clamp down straps painted, so I'm ready to put the radiator back on, put the fan on. I got my new carburetor on there, but I've got to do some, can't see it in there, I got to do some adjustment to that. I've got to basically take that nut off right there and slide this arm out and put some kind of spacers just to kick this out a little further, so the cotter pin's not interfering with the adjustment screw. I could adjust this, but I've got it to where it works, so I think just slide it over would take care of that. It does run good with that carburetor though, which was, you know, my concern to start with. It doesn't seem to leak, around the bowl or out of the choke. So everything inside seems to be fine. The biggest thing, I got the back wheels off. They're actually out there. Now, that one was easy. Meaning it wasn't really easy, but it was easy compared to this one. This was the worst side, you know, with all the shell rust. But basically this thing was so badly rusted that it actually had swelled the rim up with rust between that and the rim, you know, and swelled it up so good I couldn't beat it off there with a sledgehammer. I literally was turning this thing, hitting it, turning it, hitting it. I did that for a solid 20 minutes trying to get this thing off. So I finally split it right there, as you can see. I had to chop it, split it to get this off, but you can just see how bad rusty this rim is. It is shot. And if it wasn't shot, it is now. But definitely gonna have to come up with a rim. But anyway, I've been doing a little bit of cleaning up in here, trying to sweep the dirt up. It's been so wet and rainy. I haven't been able to really do anything with the floor because every time it rains, this linoleum gets wet. So it's been raining a lot lately, which is why this video is going to be 2 weeks behind. So I do apologize for that. I've been sick and it's rained for like 3 weeks straight, off and on, every other day. So it's kind of hard to make myself come out here when you don't feel good and work in terrible weather. So, but I'm going to go ahead and put the radiator on and I'm going to wrap this video up because it's gone on for way too long. Alright, so I got the radiator on. Got the top tank, bottom tank, got water in it. It's not leaking out of the tanks anyway. It is, however, leaking out of my pipe down at the very bottom where I didn't JB weld it all the way. So, take this back off, clean it with a wire brush, JB weld that, it should be fine. It's just like a little stream where I sliced it with the hacksaw, which don't make any sense because I JB welded the threads and threaded it in there. So I don't know why it's doing that, but I'm happy if that's the only spot that's leaking. So I'm gonna fire it up and let you guys hear it, because you guys ain't heard it run for more than 3 seconds. So, and I can adjust that new carburetor too, so I'll be back. Alright, so got gas in the tank, got the power wire hooked up. So I'm gonna see what it does. Put the muffler on it. There we go. These all look good. Making a mess. Runs pretty good considering I haven't tuned on it. Still got 40 pounds oil pressure. Pile it up a little bit. See how it's circulating real fast. Oh yeah, it's circulating. See if choking it does anything. Nope, makes it run worse, so I guess it ain't got no vacuum leaks. See if it'll fire right back up. Ah, come on. Yep. Alright, so that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.